All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dia's Readings in Contemporary Poetry series. I'm Megan Whitco, and I'm an assistant curator here at Dia, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you this evening. So before we begin, a brief announcement. I think as many of you know already, unfortunately, Sarah Arvio was not able to be here this evening, but we are very lucky and very appreciative to still have Michael Gottlieb, who will be reading as originally scheduled. And additionally, Vincent Katz has taken the opportunity to organize a brief tribute reading in honor of Tom Raworth. So I will be turning things over to Vincent Katz shortly, who can share more details on that program as well. Readings in Contemporary Poetry is a part of the Sackler Institute at Dia Art Foundation. And we also want to thank Levy Gallery, who provides major support for this series. As well as additional support is provided by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs and our media sponsor, the Brooklyn Rail. We also want to thank Brooklyn Brewery for the complimentary cold beverages, as well as Dia staff, particularly Andrea Avila and Max Chanone, who help run all of these details very smoothly. So if you've been to events here as part of our poetry series in the past, I just want to let you know that we won't be taking an intermission this evening, but we'll have a brief pause between our Raworth tribute and between Michael Gottlieb's reading. We will have books for sale up at the front after the reading, and you're certainly welcome to stay after and peruse the books, as well as chat or grab another beer if you'd like. So I would now like to introduce Vincent Katz, who has been curating readings in contemporary poetry at Dia since 2010, who's going to share some more details on this evening's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you all for coming out tonight. We're very sorry that Sarah Arvio was not able to read, and wish her all the best for speedy recovery. She's not doing so well. But we decided to take the opportunity to do a small tribute to Tom Raworth, who's a poet who's very important to many of us here and poets around the world, and was somebody that he was actually scheduled to read at Dia in this series. We really wanted him to read, and he had his plane ticket and everything from England. But then about 10 days before his reading, his health took a downturn and his doctor said he couldn't travel. And then he still held out some hope of rescheduling, but that didn't occur. And he passed away in 2017. So, I'm very thankful to the people who have agreed to read tonight and to honor Tom Raworth and to read his poetry. After I say a few words, I'll be followed by Kyle DeCoyan, James Sherry, Andrew Levy, and Bruce Andrews in that sequence. I just want to make a special mention of Charles Bernstein, who was really the person who encouraged me to try to get Tom Raworth to read in this series, and he was very instrumental in that process and followed it. And he's sorry that he can't be here tonight and sends his best. One note before we start: the final reading in this series of this season will take place on December 4th, and it will be Deborah Garrison and Gary Lenhart. So please come back for that one. Briefly, Tom Raworth was born in 1938 and passed away in 2017, as I said, an English-Irish poet, publisher, editor, and teacher who published over 40 books of poetry and prose during his life. He was very important as a printer, as a typesetter, and a publisher. With Barry Hall, he started the Galliard Press in the 1960s. So he was part of that generation of poets who took the, as Charles Olson said, don't take the indifference of the world, just take the printing means of production into your own hands. He very much embodied that and collaborated with many people, poets, visual artists, including Jim Dine and others. And he was also, I think, very influential as part of this transatlantic group. I mean, he welcomed American poets such as Ted Berrigan and Tom Clark and Robert Creeley, who were going over. And then he was kind of part of a wave of British and other European poets. I'm thinking of Anselm Hollow, for example, who were coming from Europe to the United States. It was a very fruitful period in that way. Well, I think others will have more to say and also to read, but I wanted to read, it's kind of a mini essay by Ted Berrigan. This is on the back of Tom Raworth's book called Moving, which was published by Cape Galliard Press in 1971. And in typical Ted Berrigan fashion, it's a blurb, but it's actually, he gives a time, the place and the date when he wrote it, October 1st, 1970. So that's pretty cool. It's called A Few Hard Words on Tom Raworth. I think of Tom Raworth as a shy and sensitive man. Like many such men, he is tough as nails, something plainly seen. I like the way he talks. Like Chaucer, Shakespeare, and Keats, to name 3 others, his middle is at the middle. This makes him a gentleman, by writer's definition, a thing I just invented. And it is of the essence of what makes him one of the 3 best poets, writing in England today. The identity of the 2 others is none of your business. I also like the way his silences, those times when he may be, quote, sleeping on the wing, quote, command respect and even admiration. It is one thing to be somebody, a man, when you are on the go. It is quite something else to be no less when you are stilled or going too fast. It's the same either way in any case. I like the way Tom's poems are absolutely straight. His feelings, his thoughts are as complex and lofty as practically anyone's, nor is he any less simple-minded than the rest of us. He just writes the poems down when they come, that's all, or goes after them when they hold out. And his poems are not afraid to be beautiful, and they are not afraid to seem clever. They are clever, quite often, clever with so much muscle, so much intensity. They can't help but be right. And that's very important, I think, for a poet, to be right when it's a question of that. Tom is straight as an arrow. He is as useful as a bow is to an arrow. He is true because he has the necessary moves. I speak of the man and his poems interchangeably because that is how I know him. We've only met 2 or 3 times despite knowing one another more than 5 years by now. I find myself consistently being moved by the man, his presence in his poems. I recognize the voice by now and find myself looking forward to its ring in the magazines and books that come to America from Britain. He's as good as we are, and rude a thing as it is to say, we don't expect that from English poets today. I wonder, is he better? He gets the poems turning round, and they are right there all the time, high enough in the air to be read with both one's feet on the ground. When I read the best of Tom Raworth's poems, I feel proud. They are a human accomplishment, a poet's. And I'll just read a couple of short poems from this book called Moving. These are from a series in which each poem is dated. There's several, I guess they're kind of discrete selections within this book. So this selection is called Stag Skull Mounted, May, June 1970, and it's dedicated to Ted Greenwald, and has an epigraph from F. Scott Fitzgerald's notebooks. It was an old pistol, for as he took it away from her, a slice of pearl came off the handle and fell on the floor. And each poem has the specific time and date. This is one that's always meant a lot to me. 1:31 p.m., June 5th, 1970, for Ted Berrigan. My up is mind made, absolutely empty. Now here comes thought is laughing at language. Don't see the joke. Wonder why it takes so long. But it's Friday, and it's a long way down. 10:30 a.m., May 26, 1970. Wild elephants wouldn't drag me in the rain. Gentle men wear hats to the zoo today. I wake to read contracts and smile that Ron, in his title, fused Jerry Lee Lewis and John Ashbery with gracious goodness. Well, every packet bears the maker's signature, as it says on the box, of Farrah's original Harrogate toffee. Parenthesis, 10 p.m. EST, June 1st, 1970. Just for the record, great balls of fire was something my mother and grandmother used to say before J.L. Lewis, bless him. Love, Ron, parenthesis. 9:30 p.m., May 24th, 1970. And nobody minds and covers blown, blossoms and leaves with love, zap, 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 and the British Rail insignia. Petrol burns. Tomorrow's another day. Next reader will be Kyle DeQuain.
Thanks, Vincent. I can hear in the reading what I love about these poems, which is the silences and the reverberations and these little modulations. It's like if you put two mirrors opposite one another and an object between, and the reflecting back and forth makes something more precise and transformational kind of happen. So I'm going to do my best reading from my phone. And this is The Moon Upon the Waters. The moon upon the waters. The green of days, the chimneys, alone. The green of days and the women, the whistle. The green of days and the women, the whistle of me, entering the poem through the chimneys, plural. I flow from the each fireplaces. The green of days, I barely reach the sill. The women's flecked nails. The definite article. I remove I and a colon from 2 lines above. The green of days barely reach the sill. I remove ease from ices, keep another I, put the C here. The green of days barely reaches the sill. The beach ball, dreaming the dream. The dream ball, we dance on the beach. Gentlemen, I am not doing my best. Cold fingers pass over my eye. Salt. I flow under the beach ball as green waves, which if it were vaves would contain the picture thee and the name Aves, of knots. The beach ball, the green sea, through the fireplaces spurting through the chimneys, the waves, the whales, the beach ball on a seal, still the green of days, the exit.
Hi, I'm James Sherry, and I was fortunate enough to be able to work with Tom on this book, Clean and Well Lit, which I published in 1996. I was really envious of Jeff Young's publication of Tottering State, which was a really incredible anthology of Tom's work. And so I said, let's do another one. And so Tom said, okay. And basically he created this selection of his poetry because I wanted it. He was truly accommodating. He was, as Vincent pointed out, or Ted pointed out, and I think Kyle pointed out, a gentleman. And his gentleness went to a level of sincerity which somehow he could pull off without being sentimental. And I think that was a great accomplishment. But I don't understand what everybody's talking about pauses, because when I listen to Tom Raworth, I just hear a flood of language. And I think Bruce is going to try to replicate that because he's got the skill. I don't. I'm going to read a poem which does have a pause. The pause is actually indicated by a semicolon, and but that's the only pause in this poem, called Coal, Grass, Blood, Night, Emerald. In the epic or the dramatic, last things certainly contrast specific moments in time about despair as well as hope, guilt, and redemption, into which bodies travel back by train by each other in a colored picture for entry into which nothing different experiments with tenses equivalent to the present turn to the poetry of angels, urged to murder those of time for a confession of his own experience. Pause. The universal land between agony and entry, making an ultimate example of the apocalyptic relationships of suffering, drinking many glasses extended until silence profoundly ambiguous over the coffin uninspired, refers to an intermediate loss of spiritual gifts. A moonlit sky can be seen, providing a helpful point of reference above the earthly scene, seeing as well as hearing into contiguity, everlasting physical torment. That's how I hear Tom. Thank you. Andy Levy.
Hi. I'm going to read a short piece titled In Motion from this little book called Ace. It was published by the Figures in the mid-'70s. So a lot of this work was probably written when I was a high school student. I first got turned on to Tom by Barry Alpert, who was editing the great Vort magazine at the time. There was a double issue, and I still have it to this day, and it was half of it was Ed Dorn, and half of it was Tom Raworth. And I was like, wow, I had never encountered anybody doing anything like that with words before in my life. And it changed it. So this piece is called In Motion. A face, your own movie, but what is happening can also mean pause. Pause? A verb, stars, is undue experience, element of subjectivity in life. Messages somehow broad. Servants are still up. Dear friends, I scrabble. Tones jerk. Seeing old light. Can't read slowly, caressing thought. Red star. For these walls, night, sodium lights. No friend of groups. Picking out ace, you before me. Five. Natural hands. Print into sand. Definition of title. No. Mad with loneliness. My eye touches my finger. Sees different. Make senses instill what is reason. Man made out of star. Land. Lord is flat. Spinning. Hold the slot for as long as you can. Man. No form but content. No edge. No edges. Plus. Profound. Weightlessness occurs so close. Austere. Terrible. Present. Tears. Physical time occludes sun, Morse, West. Feedback ensures collections. Nothing in mind pops up once you know the secret. Terces, 20 minutes. Early lyrical passage. Words, any tape. But this part of Ace, one form for moment. Headache, burn eye, release pressure. Living in hostile sorrow in beauty. Easter morning release plays softly, spins, fixed tracking. Sharp molecules hurt those we can. Dispose of a future with instinct, verbs. I, dimensions flick out, below silent flow. When whatever happens, visible, not any of this pure of heart, solid works miracles as blind, seek, clear, idle information. Information print in realm of ideas, toss head, imperative, stop drifting. In children, ourselves, young, open, all inputs, thought, sunlight, music, presence is felt. Even I do not know me. How long one's eyes rest, last, real, place. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bruce Andrews. This was my copy of Ace that Andy was reading from. Anyway, and thanks to Vincent for mentioning Charles Bernstein, because I pulled this out today. It was published in 1977, and I noticed on my copy that I have written the very beginning, February 1978, when I read it, which was the month that Charles and I started Language Magazine 40 years ago. So I'm going to read pretty much the first half of this book, if I can do it in proper speed. I'm sorry Miles Champion couldn't be here to read. He's the only person that used to read faster than Tom did. So this is called In Think from Ace. New face for my home, what do you think? I'll voice out of the news alive and in love drill another hole near the edge of the label and play it from there with a light pickup. Bless your brother, yours, till the energy gaps again. Let light blink, history think, leave something like a bomb, relief again to sail against depression. I glow and flicker, change, but first a present that fits me to a T, no mist but sky, and we beneath it in our minds never prevented life growing by caring. We change, selfishness flashes, shock, shock, in the mountains we use, shock, shock. Feel through that pack aging, I will not break into where at least now, shock, shock, spare change, will thinking light hand, nothing on painted light I am into or absorbing. Follow the rebel with your eyes, sucking the sky of dust leaves untouched as the wind mixes us with each breath. Loose energy says, fill me, still energy hovers, molecules have manners. Tube thought is out to lunch. What pond? Are we at lake? Or a life at sea, let me be from proportion out of date has its bad side, drifted away. You see that penicillin flush she's on, winning by verbal grace beneath arches. No mad wakes. We do not feel strangeness. He wakes in terror from a dream. Different eyes want nothing. How easily he is advised alive each day, repeated. He lives forever. He thinks alone in the honeycomb. Oh, the subjunctive, that riffle of the deck. Wind, here the surf hits the beach drum pit where through the view changes tone. He dreams his father dead. No, my father is alive and in heaven. Parentheses, more space for a while. He breathes. He does not mean you cannot be he. Too late for the telling harm. Less no mad, less ahead. He sees their friends, their world, stained between sheets of glass. Eye in the sky, then moon now. He cannot see. He, she, or it. Water foams cross him, just going. Wind blows sand and him into his traces picket at the rat class. One enormous ideas. How far inhale later he visits a fine passage where the action is surrounds itself. Same thoughts, fewer barriers. Wander who leads leaders, anything but himself is strange. Back in the fold, he is in a position to recommend his name change. Peace precious to think down the beach of fire. Cold moon wants space, beautiful in shadow. No first, no second meeting. How I hear it now. Waves all you can do with power. A thing has no intention. Unknown draws me to him alone at the wave's edge. For now, a lawn of pronunciation in a suburban back garden swells sweetly, and warm air pushes him out as no mad smile, feeling uppermost in his mind, puts wind to back as light up sail for life, laughs to sky, original outstanding art, injunction expands, only one love is well. We are here before the standard plains, corruption, chemical change, a river heads in land. Place she is different, the home service, the light program, the third program. She has his message, reflect, atoms gather within his nose, they eat together. Shock, shock. Around them words clutter, meat, cheese, face, enters not me, use no mad for feeling me, and it is a song, cloud, white night, moon, oh tell, imagine if you were, how would you feel, erase, erase. repair, alter their raft, sky returns no image, all but strongest poison virus flowers effect, but they are in drive and floating. My tongue, ear gives warning, vowels by light, bits, corner marks, moon in cancer to go, beside changing light, seldom to want peace, my ancient bones, his feet, banner, toes, correction spread before this train approves. Blue strengthens green, diminishes red slow as it seems. Why not a little difference each time? Certain gambles as she grows dark. Tonight you will represent me. River, forks, round, island. We think I don't get the connection. You would accept a director who left it to you. What can they have but beauty for that contest? No mad has seen the island ends. He, she, it, I. Trinity wins by length, he said. This line has no beginning, no end for furniture that doesn't breathe creation, recognition, how many he sees across connection. Well, it will keep you off the streets, understanding flowers with kindness, makes the drain and the Drano end of fantasy, make them see that bore, old emotions, body wants to go on. Mekon, on my mind, she is my closest friend. Sunshines, does not everything blind, sail through. No light, I talk to myself, assume. No compulsion, at best, communication, brain damage, mind, matter, what an apple, why a clutch, who motion, where mind and I spy within for pattern together, they smile at the stone, fade. Up choosing lunar land, horses don't move wrong, and on lost consonants, speed, see clearly, nomad, your name, nothing new, see as far as Yucatan, mom's truth, there is no truth, recoil, murmurs, notational, creational, rock, baby, asleeps, scarlet light, snare, pause to slow, movie halves, nice people, they turn me in, space, exhale, talking, music, perches, mad, fascinating mad retreat into dream, just makes a pattern, no mad on grass, breathing, returns to his senses, surf to land again, bounce, or just continue while moments wait, self-forged self, repairing dreams widely, Sahara, entire groups, but list who comes beside life, strange friends, change was coldest, not miserable, worship mad, no mad, lost treachery led to shaking hands, will you use it regularly, dream by which we see at night westward leading, strength flows in warm shadows, how many of these were made inland, trees, cluster sun on water, filtered screen print, too slow film, so much perfection, this shore of stone remains. Do not mock those who died in luminescence or in pride. We stand on memory at war. White moves into mind. Flash. Thank you.
Michael Gottlieb is a poet and the author of 19 books, at least. He was born in New York City and graduated from Bennington College in Vermont, where he studied writing and painting. He's the author of numerous collections of poetry, including Local Color, Eidetic Deniers, 96 Tears, New York, Value Pack, The River Road, More Than All, a collaboration with Ted Greenwald, Gorgeous Plunge, Careering Obloquy, The Likes of Us, Letters to a Middle-Aged Poet, and most recently, Dear All, published by Roof Books in 2013, and I Had Every Intention from Faux Editions in 2014. His book of prose meditations, What We Do, Essays for Poets, was published by Chax Press in 2016. A first-generation member of the language school, he helped edit one of its foundational magazines, Roof. His work appears in numerous anthologies, including Against Expression, an anthology of conceptual writing, and an upcoming pre-Flarf anthology edited by Drew Gardner, who's here tonight. A master of intransigent verbiage, in the best sense, since earliest days, Michael Gottlieb has allowed loosening or opening into his poetics at various times and for various reasons. But his stance has always been one of steadfast loyalty to intelligence, and that has kept him, that is, his poetry, pure. I don't mean immune to extraneous influences, simply that he has reasons for writing, and though they change, they remain oppositional. It should be noted that Breton-like, the visual for Gottlieb functions not as ancillary or illustrational, but often as central to his poetic expression. Quote, sky, writing, radiant units, and a letter code is how his first book ends, making clear the symbiosis for Gottlieb between writing and image. And in fact, the image, one can say with confidence, is often the city of his birth, New York, whether via bridges connecting it to the outside world, or in the paintings and other pictures that are carefully selected for his publications. His most recent work shows him riffing, not with his guard entirely down, but moving too fast for complete control, yet fast enough to enable even the most recalcitrant listener. A recent poem begins, quote, "This is the ground attack. Go big, go long, go home, fall quickly," end of quote. Fail quickly, excuse me. Go big, go long, go home, fail quickly. The mordant wit keeps us live and lively. Quote, "If only the afterlife was more like the after party." Please welcome Michael Gottlieb.
Thank you, Vincent. It's a lot to live up to there. What settled on top of the conversation? An epical event. What you assumed at first was idle flattery, jimmies scattered across an untroubled surface beneath which drowsily stirred some soon-to-be-roused hopes. It was a name day. It was a famous conversation. It was the sort of assortment you can only dream of. It was like that special person showed up for your reading, as if it had only been a few weeks since you last crossed paths, and he was as alive as you or me. Tom Raworth had a number of amazing attributes. One he read unbelievably fast. Another thing he did that was pretty wonderful was if you asked Tom to sign a book, he would say, sure, and he would take the book from your hand and take out his pen and sign his name, and then start putting in furbelows and curlicues, and it would take him about 5 minutes to finish signing your page. With the title page, the halftime, and at the time he was done, it was this, he had illuminated this page. And all the time he would be talking to you and smiling and laughing and designing and drawing pictures. It was amazing. We were all once of fighting age. The grounded aircraft in the breezeway, the unquiet night, bedeviled by the follow-on shades, the poet's past, those who are gone or should be, by thoughts of them, those who didn't make it or couldn't take it, we are possessed naturally. A youth spent too close to the speakers. Then the roaring seas, from which so many never return. Those terrible latitudes, the infernal 40s. Does it seem so long ago? But who is not spoken for? Still occasionally caught sight of scrabbling down soiled sidewalks. A harmless eccentric describing a curve. What was once called a wizened crone, an old cove, a lovable barmy. We were once all of fighting age. Someone says you can eat well or sleep well, just not both. So we go from Tom, who was the fastest reader in the Western world, to the slowest reader in the not just a petty criminal, superficial too. Jostling for a better view, restless and eager, a general release, a we can pass, getting to yes. The poet's vice-like grip on that market. The daring do, the carryings on, the swimming costume, the unrebuked, there for the picking. Our means and methods lie close to the surface. Anyone so inclined can make them theirs. What we are obliged always to ask, are we fit for purpose? Where we are prompted to say, it was good to see you. We'll wait here. I think you should have that looked at. So this is all new work, which I'm sure you all realize right away. And it's a long poem, 40-odd sections that I started working on about a year ago. A little bit after Ashbery died. And I was asked by Jeff Young to read in a memorial reading for him. And I found myself rereading a lot of Ashbery. And it seems like there's a lot of these readings now. So there's that Brahmage reading, and then there was, maybe that goes with the territory. But as I was reading this work again, some of it for the first time in a long time, I want to mention how much I was struck by this quality that was always there, that maybe it's not the most important thing to think about when we think about him. But this ineffable, effervescent, incandescent, pop, sometimes cartoony optimism that was there almost on every page. And I went back to my bookshelf, and then picking up other people like Schuyler and Frank O'Hara and Kenneth Koch, also someone I hadn't read much in a long time. I saw it there everywhere. And it was such a great thing to be able to hold on to at a time when optimism seemed to be, or maybe still seems to be, hard to find or hold on to. So I don't know whether I've managed to incorporate any of that into this work, though I did try. But I will say this. One of their signature, all the signature moves, move is not the right word, that I think of when I think of them is exclamation marks. And there's exclamation marks in this piece. And I actually did a check last night, and there's 6, which may not seem like a lot, but it's 600% more than everything else I've written my entire life, period, end of sentence. Or exclamation mark, end of sentence. So, Shelley's Great Wheel. We pass along the fiery road. A kind of set list staples to the articles of faith. The green shoots, too. A salubrious uptick, a scenic overlook, an unspooling hinterland, a push-in of hopefulness, pouring us into these casts. warming snaps. We know if there is no deposit, maybe there is no return. Not heedless, but regardless. So surely. As if there could be any doubt any longer. The realization dawns, this was mostly tidal air. That end of days, as heralded by Caspar David Friedrich, that long view across the lake rising above that sheet of mist, we want to say, has now run its course. Now cured one and all those diseases of despair. With the warmest of regards, you showed them the dummy. Among all that we have been faced with today, there are some things we are resolved must be true. This was our life laid out before us, a surprisingly sunny sizzle reel. In the glow of the burnished firework, we made out our reflection. At the end of the day, the unavoidable realization that we too, even us, might be counted among the saved. Doctor, I can walk again. The unexamined life, upon further examination, was looking better and better. One door down from defeat for both mailing and shipping. Our address for so long. But then one day, glazed with rain, trailed by some fowl of some sort, the movers arrived with their great red wheelbarrow. A box set, a doily, an unblimped Araflex, an upside-down cake, a silent alarm, a restless district, a unclaimed soul. Any one of us, the driver for whom green men go and yellow men go faster. A decision tree loaded down with the fruit of our hopes. How they survived in this world. Famously unprepared, once and for all, always accounting in arrears, to be young in a time like this. The poet's life, so devil may care and happy-go-lucky, that's the one for me. You want to reply that you can't count cards if you can't count. To profess, to abjure an act of contrition. All the arguments that spilled from that stuffed file that served to militate for that great man theory of poetry, we cast it all down. And I was getting ready for another one of these readings last weekend, and for Tom Clark and Bill Corbett. And I picked up another book, which I hadn't picked up in a really long time, the New York School Anthology. There was my 18-year-old signature in the flyleaf, which was pretty weird to see this. And there was Joe Brainerd all over, which was, pretty great to see. So speaking of cartoony, he wasn't cartoony, but He was so perfect for all of them, and his stuff is on all of those books. It's everywhere. So, speaking of him, 40, I will gladly. I will gladly pay you Wednesday for a hamburger today. And I promise to come to your reading on Saturday. 14. What it means when we hear the words, you know, of course, this means war, with a Bronx accent coming out of the mouth of a rabbit. 7. Oh, this old thing. I got this hat at the Tractor Logico-Philosophicus Supply Company. 29. I remember Fun City. What takes the cake? Plush toys for the grown-ups. What we try to bury in the conversation pit. Task lighting for the idle. The difference between namesake and eponymous. This I bequeath you. This is a poem about cereal. A pass-fail. Who can it be who's never occasionally found wanting, taking all this as it comes? We had to bend down to make out the almost inaudible sigh. Who used to teach through the test? As is our due, we pace the streets unrecognized. It didn't matter. We wanted some, even though it was just cereal. We called this lust for life. A sort of trade show for the mooted. Why we seek repetition, what erudition can never solve for. A hastily converted high school gym. The reason we get up in the morning. To all appearances, a now placid estuary. A kind of wireframe, a storyboard test where those fears may once and for all be summarily dismissed. The Youth League. Overcoming a sorry childhood, the ragged colors nailed to the mast, no longer missing my cargo cult. I walk freely among you, witting for once. This is just what the trailer promised. It's always 4:03 somewhere. The happy day when the irregulars reached our town. Newly arrived at our shores, the king tide. At flood stage finally. That course of doubt crashes, collapsing upon its own weight. We are free. In our lifetime, the once stigmatized behavior, a business model back then contingent upon chucking people over the gunnels. You are better than that. The unchaperoned concepts now free to mingle at ease, as you were. As we used to say, let your fingers do the walking. All good hosts know you can never have enough mixer. It simply can't be beat. I remember your Apgar, becoming what we hold most dear. Breathe the incorrigible, irrepressible. I embarrass you, that's my job. I took your picture. Do you want it back? I hold this in my hand. We called it a transparency. To be so lucky to grow old enough to someday be surprised by this. What I now feel obliged to stipulate to, what you always saw through, those blessed impure thoughts, after all these years admitting, no longer a stranger to this emotion, like a lifer sprung miraculously from solitary, that object permanent so devotedly wished for, turning it over in your hand. Ask a woman who knows. For so long starring in my own biopic, usually we put this over there and there it stays. With that part of me which you gave back to me, I try it on for size. If it doesn't fit now, maybe I will grow into it. How are we doing? So Vincent, thank you for this. It was a pleasure. I'm sorry we didn't get to see Sarah. Megan, thank you for all your hard work and for you and your team making it all look so easy. And thank you all for being here. Where the poets take the waters. Where the poets take the waters. Asking nicely for a fight. The blasé settee, the doofus stand-in, the equivalent of a mere needle stick, the dry goods. I can't imagine anywhere I'd rather be tonight. What we all naturally have a hankering for, such blithe assurance. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Without apparent volition. They ring down from the lookout, the sally gate, the happy accident, the cracking mask of resolve. What is laid on with a trowel. Among the plantings, the towering folly. All the things you don't need to be ashamed of anymore. Standing at what we assumed was a safe distance, surveying the so-called love nest. It was finally clear to even intelligences such as ours of a peace, price unconscious, drawn easily on this topic, what inevitably takes a lifetime to master. What is our highest calling? An untenanted allotment to which we bring our joint and several fortunes. A current coursing through the crowd, a caravanserai for our hopes, a victory at sea. Everyone has the goods on us. in the lighting district, the gift district, the notions district, where we learned free verse isn't free, doing business in the beating heart of the city. Under our own buttonwood tree, this is our practice, the pitch where we fetch up, making our markets. Thank you.